Welcome in, everybody. It's the first episode of the Two Tone Report. I'm Ryan Smith. Guy right above me is Ethan Jacobs. Ethan, what's up, man? It's first episode.
I'm just chilling, dude. I'm feeling the juices, man. I'm feeling ready to go. I've been ready to go for this, man. Waiting. Tighten
Dude, it's
up.
exciting. It's exciting, man. It's exciting, especially, I know, obviously not in the playoffs. Super Bowl week coming up here. You still got the Honors Weekend, Pro Bowl. Shadur Sanders, legendary Pro Bowler, right here. Getting things started off with a bang Pro Bowl season, proving even more why Pro Bowls don't matter anymore. Haven't mattered for the last 10, 15 years. But, still here to have a good time with this offseason, getting rolling, been rolling for the Titans, obviously. And, one of the biggest hires for the Titans really with everything that they have, cap space-wise and just potential-wise. Robert Saleh, the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans after Brian Callahan was fired midway through the year. Ethan, I know you've got your spiel on his history, on why he's, how he got this opportunity, and obviously whether he's going to be a good fit or not here in Tennessee, we won't know until, season starts, till mid-September when the season starts. But for now, Ethan, I'll give the floor to you, brother.
Appreciate it, dog. With some context here. His press conference is coming up this Wednesday. It's been freezing, snowing, ice, rain. It's been nuts. It's 6
For those in
degrees
Nashville
outside.
who don't know,
Yeah.
it's been going crazy, getting that that yearly weather.
Yeah, the one time it goes nuts. So we'll see. No coordinator has been chosen yet, which I feel like is an extremely important hire to really determine how this trajectory for this year is
Especially on
going to
the
go.
offensive side, with him being a defensive guy. But
Especially with him calling plays. He's not like the CEO type where he can be in the other room. It's going to be, him mainly focused on the defense. He's going to spread the love a little bit, but
it's going to spread it.
all right.
You good?
All right. But yeah, I've always found it interesting when you learn a little bit more about the person your coach is, because I feel like, everyone knew Vrabel. Everyone knew Vrabel.
Everybody's going to know him, especially this upcoming
Go Seahawks.
back on the big stage. Yeah.
But, people knew Callahan through Bill, his father. Was a head coach multiple times in the NFL. I think he was a head coach for the Nebraska, I think is what it was as well. So this is player-wise and a lot of stuff before this, other than being the Jets coach. You don't really know much about him, DC for the 49ers, but I wanted to get a little bit into his history. So Robert Saleh was born in 1979, Dearborn, Michigan, to Lebanese immigrants. Raced there all his life, lived there all his life. Played tight end at Northern Michigan.
He's used to this weather.
He is used
to it.
Why is he not here? Why is he not here in front of the press conference? I need him here now.
Outside, just throw him in Bridgestone. Throw him on the ice with the Breads. Just got this.
I need to see him out there. His bald, beautiful head. But yeah, he played tight end at Northern Michigan from 1997 to 2001. So he graduated with a finance degree. He went originally into finance. His family's got a big family operation where they do real estate and stuff like that. So he was doing that right out of school, even though he was offered a graduate assistant coaching opportunity with Northern Michigan. He did it for a couple of years. He was making really good money in his family's business, but there was that itch. He loved football. He thought about doing it. He just decided to go with what he knew was safe. And I think this is the craziest fact I found this whole time. The reason Robert Saleh got into coaching after going the safe route, going into his family's business, is 9/11.
Wow.
His brother was in the second tower during 9/11. He made it out. He luckily made it out. He made it out of the tower. He was safe. They're all alive. They're fine. But that moment for him made him realize that, okay, life's short, life is precious. It can literally end in an instant. You have no idea. And just being that close to tragedy and knowing that could be taken away so fast, it literally spurred him to go back into coaching, or to go into coaching. So he started doing he started coaching, I think, at Michigan State, and then worked his way up through colleges. Went through.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
say I remember. I think it was either ESPN or NFL Network. One of the main sports entities. I think they ran a story on that whenever he was still the head coach of the Jets, where it was like, they had talked about that story with his brother. I'd completely forgotten about it just because obviously Salah hasn't necessarily been on the national stage outside of this past couple of weeks with the 49ers. But yeah, I completely forgot about that. Wow, that's really cool.
I think the reason why it aired is because that game where Aaron Rodgers blew his Achilles, it was
Yeah,
on
uh,
9/11.
yeah.
So I think there was probably like a big story there. But by the way, all credit to this information goes to the 49ers website. I found a lot of the stuff there.
Oh yeah.
They made it really concise. It was awesome. Uh, but yeah, so like that horrible moment in American history, like spurred this. It's crazy. So yeah, he just started working through colleges. He apparently would drive to, I think it was Central Michigan with Brian Kelly. He like drove to the school, sat there, waited for him for an hour and a half out of his car, uh, for him to pull up because I think Brian Kelly recruited him out of school, and so they had that connection. And then he was a graduate assistant there, and he just worked his way up. He after I think Central Michigan, he went to Georgia. He was only there for a couple months. He got a call like, "Hey, we've got a spot here with the Houston Texans. It's an internship, making $5 an hour." And I saw that he said $5 an hour was a big pay increase for me because $5 an hour in overtime turns to 750. He's like, working 100 hours a week, that actually ends up being somewhat of a livable wage. And I'm
When
like,
was this?
that
When was this?
2010?
It's about to say there's no shot there's no shot you can look at that now. It's like, yeah, $5 is livable. 750 is a livable wage.
I mean, it's crazy. So he'd stay in the stadium, and he stayed there, and he worked his way up. And so, like, over time, he just had to get belief in himself, and people took him under his wing, and they saw some potential there. And um, under, where was it? I think it was under Frank Bush in 2010. Which is the current linebacker coach for the Tennessee Titans, unless he's been let go. By the way, he was fired in 2010, and so they cleared out staff. They were out.
Yeah.
Kubiak cleaned house. Bless you.
Yeah, bless you. Bless you, Zaylen.
And so he was out of a job. Hopefully you can edit that. That was a horrible minute right
Yeah,
there.
that's
That was
fine.
bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can. We're good.
Okay, I'm gonna restart here. Frank Bush, with the Texans after he was there for multiple years, was fired. Which is the current linebacker coach for the Tennessee Titans. Pretty cool little thing right there. So they cleaned house. Kubiak cleaned house, and so Robert Saleh, after his first son was born, is jobless, nowhere to go, no leads, no place to go afterwards. He went to the Senior Bowl. No one would give him the time of day, and so he was hopeless. He thought the dream was ending. Then he hears a little bit about Seattle having an opening, and apparently those 2 weeks while Seattle was on vacation, after the season, were like the longest of his life because any moment someone could call and be like, "Hey, give my buddy a job," and
Yeah.
so that it's gone for him. But luckily he got it, and that is where I believe he developed into the coach he is today. Or at least that's what he says. He says it like he learned so much about being a coach because under Pete Carroll, I'll just give you a quote.
Yeah.
Saleh said, "I realized I didn't know anything." Then he says, "The thing I learned in Seattle is if you try to be someone else, if you try to steal from someone else, and that's the way you live life, you're not really helping players. It's all fake." It's like he realized that, you can reiterate knowledge. You can reiterate everything you've learned over the moment, but being yourself is what's going to make it stick to those players. Like, you've all seen a loser just try to say what he's heard from someone else. I've done it before. Everyone's done it before.
Yeah.
You just kind of mouth with Peacock, whatever. Not Peacock. What? I retarded. What is it? Huh? No, what is it? What's the word for it? Mimic? No, it's not mimic. It's like an animal, right?
Because you're trying to say like mock or like copy, like what somebody says.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know. We'll edit that out as well.
Either way.
Yeah, so it's like if you aren't being yourself, it's not going to work. And so he moved up through there in Seattle. Those 3 years were apparently super pivotal. Linebacker coach is eventually what he ended up being there. And then Gus Bradley, the DC for the Seattle Seahawks, left to go be the head coach at Jacksonville. So he went there, was the linebacker coach, moved his way through, was there for 3 years. Then Gus Bradley, not known for being the best coach of all time, head coach at least.
He's a coach of all time.
That's right. He was let go. So that went along with all the staff. And then some unknown guy, really unknown, super underground, Kyle Shanahan, gives Robert Saleh a call about
Who's that?
the opening. Yeah, I'm not sure. About being the linebacker coach for the 49ers, the team he was just hired for. So I believe it's 2017. Yeah. And they knew each other through the Houston connection. Shanahan was in Houston for a little bit, and they were there at the same time. And so basically, I found it so interesting. Saleh either had the choice of following his former head coach that he lived, basically taught him everything he knew in Seattle and then Jacksonville, back to the West Coast I think he was with the Chargers. And so he had a spot there, and he was like, am I going to leave this guy who's taught me everything and done everything for me? And so Shanahan, it was like a back and forth, and Shanahan was like, Saleh was like, let me interview for DC. Like, let me see what I can do. Like, I know I can do it. And he's like, okay, buddy, you're a linebacker coach. Let's take a step back. He didn't even do like coordinating. I don't think he did run game stuff. I'm not even sure he did that. And so he's like, hey, I need you to lock in. Be our linebacker coach. I'll give you a shot. And so he did, and he gave him a shot. And he was like surprised, like utterly surprised and shocked. I mean, we all know Kyle Shanahan, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, can make chicken salad out of chicken shit. I mean, it's just how it is. Like, he can just... The amount of injuries the 49ers have is insane.
I think the fact just being able to make Brock Purdy a top 15 quarterback, a top half of the league quarterback is, I don't think, we're not sitting here, it's, basically beating a dead horse at this point. We don't have to sit here and explain to people why Kyle Shanahan is a really good play caller and why he is the way that he is, but, we obviously knows that he's a good play caller, and like you said, was able to see it from Saleh there early.
Exactly. And I mean, so he basically threw the freaking books at Saleh. He's like, okay, what happens if I do this, all these motions and stuff? And Saleh just apparently was able to meticulously answer every question to, like, what Shanahan wanted to hear from his DC. And so he was given the job, and he turned within a couple years that, like, last ranking squad in so many metrics into the best pass defense in the NFL. And I mean, and that seems to be a trait that follows him everywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes, people have either career years or they just are utterly floored by his ability to, like, get the most out of the defense.
Yeah, that was what I know. We were talking about it before we started, but I had heard a story where because he was in I think he was in Jacksonville for a little bit, right? But whenever he was the linebackers coach in Jacksonville, there was one of his linebackers that had basically come out during an interview and said he was the reason why I was, like, he basically had a career year that season. It was like he was the reason why. He was the sole reason why I had that year. And I think, once again, just kind of reiterating what you were saying, it's like he's just remarkable, the turnaround that he's been able to do with San Francisco, and then obviously coming back as well after he got done with the Jets, which I know you're about to talk about, and be able to put together a really good defensive season, even with, the lack of starting linebackers that they had this past year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible what he can do with, like, not blitzing, being able to pressure the quarterback, and being able to still, like, have that level of defense is just great. Like, he just didn't blitz. Like, he just doesn't blitz. And it's like, the talent to be able to do that is crazy. Because that's like the fallback, right? That's the easy thing to do. It's a easy way to get pressure on it, even though it can be picked apart,
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean. It's just, everywhere that he goes, people have always said that, like, this is the thing he can do better than anyone else. And that's why he's getting these opportunities. And I mean, that's the reason why I really wanted to do this. It's just, I wanted to know why. Like, how did he get to this moment, first of all? And, like, what about him makes it to, like, where he's getting his interviews? Like, you should see how many 49ers players and 49ers fans are just, like, distraught that they only had him back for 1 year. They were so happy to have him back, and he's gone.
Yeah. I mean,
tells you a lot.
Exactly. I mean, it's just, and it's not like people couldn't look at, the stats and couldn't look at, San Francisco play and sit here and, like, wonder why, he's only a one and done, like a, college basketball player, baseball player. It's like, he's a one and done, then back to a head coaching spot. It's fairly easy to see with everything he's able to do on the defensive side. And I know we're going to get into it here in just a second, but, like, it's why I think he'll do better than what he did with the Jets. Just because, the Jets are just a total dumpster fire. We've known this for the last 10 years, is that if people go to the Jets, they'll fail. You've seen it with Aaron Glenn this year. Obviously saw it with Robert Saleh, Adam Gase. You can go through a plethora of these head coaches that they've gone through, and it's just been, they've all failed. And it's because it's just...
Rex Ryan was successful, and they were just like, oh, you were good? See you, buddy. It's just like they were halfway decent, and they just got rid of the only coach that ever worked for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it's a whole dumpster fire in New Jersey, but we're not here to talk about that. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to eventually. We're very close to talking about. I mean, because you can't talk about Robert Saleh and how he got to be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans without his failure in New York. And I mean, there's things to glean from, even though Woody Johnson seems to be, after Dan Snyder was forced to sell the team, Woody Johnson seems to be the most overreaching, worst owner. I don't know him as personal. I don't know if he has any, like, things like that, but it just seems like he's got too much overreach. His hands in the pie a little too much.
Yeah.
He tries to implement his own idea when he's not a football guy, which doesn't work.
No.
I mean, before he got the Jets job, the reason why he was ultimately interviewed for the Jets job is because he led him, McDaniel, and Shanahan were all together with the 49ers, and they led that team to a Super Bowl. And was that 2019?
That was Mahomes. Yeah, I think so. I think it was 2019 or 2018. Because that was when they should have won, but then ended up choking it away at the very end of it. Because that was Mahomes' first. That was his first Super Bowl that he got. So I think that was 20. I want to say it was 2019.
The year might have been 2019, but I think it was a 2018-19 season. So
something along those lines. But it was definitely pre-2020. I do remember that.
The year the Titans were going to beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl if Patrick Mahomes wasn't Patrick Mahomes. That was the Titans' miracle run.
Yeah,
It was beautiful. But,
Yeah, so that would have been 2018 because they were the 1 seed and then I think lost to the Ravens, right? They lost to the Ravens in the first round in that next season? Or their first round, I guess, because they would have been the 1 seed. I'm pretty sure that's when it was, right? Because that was 2019 was when they went to the 1 seed and then where they got the 1 seed, right?
No, that was 2021. The Titans were Tannehill started in Mariota's place, and led us to the playoffs after starting. I can't remember the exact. It was awful. Like, we were way out of the running, and then we got back in with Tannehill, and then we played Tom Brady in his last game as a Patriot.
I remember that.
Pick six by Logan Ryan to end the game. And then we went to the Ravens, which were the number 1 seed, and we beat the Ravens. And then we went to the Chiefs, which we were up 10-0. I think 17-7 at one point. I remember Dennis Kelly caught a touchdown. A big lineman caught a touchdown. I was at your house watching that game.
Yeah, no, I remember because I want to say it was like near halftime, and Titans were up, I think, by 2 scores. And then as it got, I want to say the Chiefs tied it up before half, or it may have been in the third quarter, but
it was the end of the third quarter. Rashaan Evans should have wrapped him up and instead just shouldered him.
Oh yeah, I remember.
It's when, I mean, just not trying to give Rashaan Evans a excuse.
Not trying to shit on the guy, but
at the time no one really knew exactly the extent of Patrick Mahomes' like running ability, especially at that time.
Yeah.
Like he really can just get out of anything sometimes. It's so infuriating.
Yeah.
Because he hit him hard. He just rolled and he stayed along the sideline and he scored. And I was like, oh, that was the strawberry camel. But
yeah,
that was a crazy year. A little tangent right there. That was wild. But yeah, after those couple seasons, really successful job. Metrics completely changed on the 49ers. Made them one of the best defenses in the NFL. Very feared defense along with an offense. I'm surprised if they didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo as a starting QB, they might have won something. And I mean, so he got the Jets job. And this is where the real discourse happens, because this is where it matters.
Yeah.
You can be a successful DC. There's hundreds of successful OCs and DCs that tried and they sucked. They just can't do it. Brian Callahan, prime example. He's awful. Like, he couldn't be a head coach. He's barely an offensive coordinator.
I'm about to say, then again, I don't even know. I'm not really even sure how much of a good offensive coordinator he was, because I'm pretty sure it was Zach Taylor who was calling all the plays in Cincinnati, and then on top of that, obviously you have, Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Yeah, it's just an elite passing offense, and obviously when you got it, brought in. I know it was his second year whenever he got fired with Cam Ward, but it's like, you bring him in, you give him a little bit of leeway, trying to get him to fix Will Levis, which turns out you couldn't fix him. So sucks there. You go with Cam Ward, who I still think is going to be a really good player whenever he actually gets his feet underneath him a little bit and is not running around for his life pretty much every single play. He's going to be a good player. He's going to be a really good player. Has ceiling to be at the very least a top 10 quarterback, but you saw it in year 2, and it's good on the front office, the organization, to realize, like, hey, this isn't going anywhere with Brian Callahan, and we just need to cut our losses down. I understand it's going to suck for Cam Ward. It's going to suck for the team to be like, hey, you're going to be on your third play caller in the span of like a couple months, but for the long run, it's going to be better, because now you're going to have an opportunity to be like, hey, this is a really attractive job for whoever ends up getting it, and obviously it's Robert Saleh at the end of it, but still, it's going to be a really attractive job because you have the most cap space in the NFL. It's still, a decent free agent class. Just looking at some of the places, wide receiver wise, it's fine. Mike Evans looks like he's probably gonna end up being. We'll see if he resigns with Tampa, but still, there's plenty of good options, and Titans can obviously spend a lot of money, or they keep it. So that'll obviously be a discourse for a later date, but still, it was still a very attractive job, and obviously, like you said, with the OCs and DCs and things like that, that's the risk reward of hiring first time head coaches, is that, like, you don't know what you're going to get out of them. You don't know if they have the chops for being a head coach or not, and obviously more times than not they don't. So
I mean, that's the risk you take. You're trying just to find the best thing for your football team and what you think the locker room needs, what do you think the air around the stadium needs. And with Robert Saleh, I think it's exactly what we were looking for. We were looking for Mike Vrabel. We really were. It sucks. Like, there's a lot of discourse about, Vrabel, you should have never fired Vrabel. You should have never done this. You should have never done that. I am not a defender of the decision, but to say that Vrabel was doing everything right, it would just be malpractice. It is not true. He hired his buddies. He didn't fire any of his buddies. Craig Ackerman, horrible. Todd Downing, He finally let go of him, but he just had to have the worst offense in the NFL like 2 years in a row. Tim Kelly brought in, and it's just not good. Like he just kept, and that's a Houston connection. It was never he could never go outside of his bubble, and this is still true in New England. He's just lucky that oh god, what's the OC's name? I know his name. I'm just being stupid.
Oh, Josh McDaniels. Yeah.
Yeah, McDaniels. He's been fired as a head coach twice. It doesn't matter how good McDaniels will be. He's never getting another opportunity again. And he's a great offensive coordinator. He got lucky. He is lucky that he has an MVP candidate quarterback. He's got a solid team that was there. Who Gerard Mayo was not ready, and they had.
No, that was just a bad hire. That was clearly a filler hire. You know how they got like the filler bridge quarterbacks. That was a bridge head coach. You can't convince me otherwise, because you can't sit here and say like, oh, the expectation wasn't to hire Vrabel as soon as the season was over and just go out and get a good draft pick for the next season so you can try and do some stuff there. Like there was no shot you could convince anybody otherwise, because you can't sit here and say, with all of the candidates that were out there, to sit here and look at Gerard Mayo and say, yeah, this guy who has barely been a coach in his life, let's make him the head coach of the New England Patriots. It was stupid. But then again, it wasn't meant for having any sort of success here in that singular year. But
it was meant to keep somewhat of a Bill Belichick culture, because he was Bill Belichick's guy.
Well, yeah.
It was meant to keep the same air about the building, is what I think. Vrabel is that guy. Like he understands it. He lived it. He was there for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, and again, going back to it, Vrabel is lucky right now. Is he an amazing coach? And I wish he was still the Titans head coach. Of course, I'm not an idiot. Yes, duh. But to say that he did what he was supposed to do, and he wasn't a perfect head coach. He wasn't. Like, he was super good at the in-game decisions, clock management, knew when to call stuff. He had the right guy in his mic to let him know, hey, do this right now. I don't know who that guy is. Pay him a bunch of money and bring him here. But we are looking for that type of person again. Brian Callahan was too soft. I've heard some player accounts from some reporters that like he was a little bit of a, outside of the realm of things. He stuck to the offensive side of the ball too much, and for our offense to be as bad as it was, that's kind of insane. He didn't really go to the. I heard multiple times, even in his own interviews, he'd be like, "Yeah, I heard some stuff from the defensive guys that they'd like to hear more from me as the head coach. It's kind of my job. I hope you do that and continue." And I think Saleh is that guy. Now,
yeah, that's I don't mean to cut you off, but that's the one thing that I was like, that's why I really think that defensive coordinators or defensive-minded guys are not necessarily better suited to be head coaches, but I think you find more success in a lot of those defensive guys who are become head coaches, and why you see a lot more. It's more prevalent on the college level, obviously, with guys like Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning and Brent Venables and things like that, who are more towards the defensive side of the ball, that are better off for being a head coach. Because I think it was Mike Shanahan that said, or I heard something for an interview from one of the coaches that coached under Mike Shanahan, where he was, if you want to be a good offensive coach, you need to go or learn everything you can about the offense. Go study on the defensive side of the ball for a year or two, because that gives you just a better understanding of where those guys are going to be at defensively in those different coverages and formations and things like that allow for an offensive guy to see, like, hey, this is how they're setting up, this is what they're going to do, and this is how you attack it. So you know what to look for in a defense. And obviously offensive guys are going to know that anyways, but to have a better understanding on top of being able to relate to those defensive guys as well, instead of just being a solely, like you said, with Brian Callahan. And that's what I feel like you see that a lot with offensive-minded guys as well. And of course, you can see with defensive guys as well. They're always outliers to everything, but you see it more with offensive-minded guys, where it's just like, hey, I'm gonna stick to this. I'm gonna go be the head coach of the offense. You go be the head coach of the defense, and then there's like an immediate just split. between the two sides of the team, and you can never run a team that way. That's why, you've seen the Titans sort of fail in these last two seasons. Obviously the talent on those teams were nowhere near good enough, but on top of that, the coaching wise, it just felt like there was a split between both sides of the ball. That's why you see, the Jets fail a lot, the Raiders, Miami, obviously the Titans, like we said, and a lot of these franchises, the Browns, who literally just fired their best head coach that they've had this century.
Coach of the year.
Dude, it's just a lot of these. I don't want to say it. It's like, these are bad organizations. They don't know what they're doing. But a lot of the times it is that way, where you see not very well run organizations just have these, not give guys enough time, or have these splits in whether it's the front office to the coaching, or like in both sides of the coaching room, where it's like I said, one guy's the head coach of the offense, one guy's the head coach of defense, but only one dude has the actual title and the paycheck of a head coach. So it creates that split that you see with some of these coaches, like you said, with what happened with the Titans these past couple of years. And that's another thing where, like you said, with Robert Saleh, obviously he knows where he went wrong in New York, which is pretty much everywhere except for the defensive side of the ball. And we all know what the Jets have been. They've just been a dumpster fire. So it's hard to sit here and say that everything was Saleh's fault, and that's going to be a big thing that he needs to get right, or that this team needs to get right, is their coordinators, specifically the offensive coordinator. Now, he needs to obviously do what he needs to do on the offensive side of the ball and go not be Brian Callahan and actually go speak with his team on the offensive side of the ball, which I have zero doubt that he's going to be able to do. But he's got to get this hire right, because you're not only relying on having a good offense, but you also have your former number 1 overall pick Cam Ward and a lot of good young talent in that offensive room that you need to be able to develop and not stunt their growth, right? And
exactly.
If you don't get that right, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get it right this year, but if you don't get that right, then that's going to screw this team over for years if you don't get it right. And that's not, it sounds extreme, but it's true. You've seen it all the time. I feel like you saw that in Miami with Tua and Brian Flores, just that whole dilemma and the, tampering to try and get Joe Burrow instead, and, Flores saying, you suck, you shouldn't play football, to Tua, and then obviously ended up being kind of right about that one, but still, you see it where you have these splits, like I've been saying, but because you mess up the OC hire, or you don't get something right, or there's a split between the front office and coaching where GM drafts a guy who coach doesn't want, so guys who get to that level, they're going to be stubborn, and that's how it is, and it shows in the development of some of these players. So that's why getting this hire, and I don't think I needed to explain it to anybody, but that's why getting this OC hire was really important. Not just for, obviously, offensive performance, because with him, like you've been saying, with what he's been able to do all throughout his career as a defensive coach, be able to get the best out of his guys, which is obviously the mark of a good coach, being able to get the best out of his guys on the defensive side of the ball. If you have a good defense, that'll only get you so far. You have to have a good offense to pair with that, and I think you've seen that all throughout the AFC playoffs with the Chargers and the Texans. I guess I'll say the Broncos, even though, they were a Bo Nix random broken foot from probably going to the Super Bowl. So it's just, I guess you could say them, but a lot of the times defense is good enough to get you to the big dance, but you got to have both to be able to have a shot at winning it all. And I think that's why
points, baby.
This is going to be so important. It's such an important hire, without a doubt, the most important. Honestly, it could be even more important hire than Saleh being the head coach, because you've got so much young talent riding on that offense, and we know the talent on the defensive side of the ball, obviously, with Big Jeff being the trademark guy here in the middle of that defense, one of the best defensive tackles in the league when he's healthy.
Quentin Williams.
Yeah, literally. There's a lot more young talent that needs development on the offensive side of the ball, so they have to get this hire. I keep saying he, as if he is the guy who's going to be solely in. Obviously, you're going to have other input, but he's going to be the main one making the decision. The Titans got to get that right, and I don't need to explain it, but you have to get that right if you want to be contenders in the next couple of seasons.
Let's reflect upon his hires at the OC for a young quarterback, a number 2 overall pick with the New York Jets. First, he had Mike LaFleur, which in his own right is a talented play caller, has developed over time. Is with the Rams at the moment. McVay doesn't want to give him up. That shows how valuable. That shows he appreciates him quite a bit. It's been reported and very well documented that Woody Johnson wanted Mike LaFleur fired to pair Nathaniel Hackett, the former Broncos head coach, back with Aaron Rodgers, and that is not what Robert Saleh wanted.
And for good reason. When was the last time you've ever seen that work? Obviously, it worked in Green Bay, but that was also prime Aaron Rodgers, right? It's what happened. It's why Adam Gase had his whole shtick with being a head coach, because Peyton Manning carried him to being fooling everybody to being a successful head coach. Now bug-eyed freaks out of coaching for good. Thank God.
Yeah, dude, that guy is crazy looking.
Freaky looking dude.
But,
you see more ghost than Darnold was.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. We've all seen how Darnold has completely changed. Now, of course, being under Kubiak. What's his name? Clay Kubiak?
Clint Kubiak.
Clint Kubiak, which is in his own right, a head coach candidate for plenty of teams. I actually wish the Titans would have interviewed him. I wanted to stick on the offensive side of the head coaching job. To be honest, Robert Saleh was not my number one guy. Was he better than freaking Matt Nagy? Oh my God! I can't believe
I was seeing on Twitter some of these these posts where it's like best odds to become the next Titans head coach, and Matt Nagy was number one. I'm like, did we just forget his whole shtick in Chicago, where he basically ruined three quarterbacks' careers in the span of 5 years? Are we just forgetting that at this point? This is terrible. It's awful. Morons.
If that would have happened, which it almost did, which is insane.
It's terrible.
I don't know how I would have even looked forward to watching the Titans this season if that would have happened. But thank God it didn't. My guy, to be completely honest, was Mike McCarthy. That was my guy. I realize he's got a lot of stuff on his own. I just thought it would be good to have an experienced coach be with an unexperienced, very young QB who runs a similar style. I would say him and Dak Prescott, they're not the exact same build, but they have a similar talent set. They can get mobile when they need to. They have good arms. They have a decent ability to, now the playmaking ability on Cam Ward's part,
it's significantly better. It's no offense to Dak, but Cam Ward is in that sort of aspect is a better quarterback than what Dak is, and obviously with him,
they're both
snapping his ankle. Him snapping his ankle in half didn't exactly help for Dak, but still, his playmaking, Cam's playmaking is unbelievable, and I get it with the Mike McCarthy thing, because that was the one. It was weird to see so many guys who were former head coaches be available again. Whether it was Robert Saleh, obviously, Kevin Stefanski, John Harbaugh, who. So be it. Obviously, Mike Tomlin will. I know he's not going to. Sean McDermott now as well. We'll see what Mike Tomlin wants to do. I know he said he's not going to coach this year, so I kind of expect that. Going to go to TV, which
there's some reports that McDermott's going to do the same thing.
That wouldn't surprise me either. Honestly, with some of these openings that are left over, that would not surprise me at all. Because let's be honest with ourselves here. Do you really think? Let's go to Cleveland. Let's go to Las Vegas. Let's go to Las Vegas. Let's go to the Raiders. We'll do good.
Fernando. I got Fernando Mendoza.
Fernando. We'll see what happens. Him, Heisman Mendoza. But it's it's weird to see this many former head coaches be available.
It was the weirdest cycle I can remember.
Yeah, because it's not. Just imagine telling yourself 5 years ago, especially whenever the Ravens were at their peak with Lamar Jackson, that in 5 years John Harbaugh is gonna be gone.
Fired.
He's going to be fired.
It wasn't mutual.
No.
The owner said he's he was fired. I fired him.
They're going to be in this. That would not surprise me at all to see that happen, like a Titan situation over in Baltimore, where they just completely collapse. Because I don't think Lamar Jackson's
Just
very
because
happy, and there's a lot of really old pieces on that roster. Bro Derek, Bless Derek, King Henry, old old man on that roster pretty much. There's not a lot of young talent. There's still talent, obviously, but not a lot of young talent
Zay Flowers, you've
on
got
that
some young
roster.
people on the defense, Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, like there's some good pieces, but there's just not a whole lot of guys who you can sit here and look at. They're going to survive a rebuild, or they're going to be able to survive, 3-4 years more with the Ravens, just because it's going to be whatever. They're going to be gone by the end of it, and they're going to be retired or whatever. So it wouldn't surprise me to see that at all.
Yeah. And I mean, this cycle is so strange, and I just feel like McCarthy would have been perfect for the Titans. Now, again, he would have only been here for a couple of years, and he's agreed to be the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach,
Yeah.
which, why? Okay, it doesn't make any sense. There's not like a young. McCarthy was perfect for a young squad who needed someone to come in there and be like, "This is how we run things." He didn't need to go to one of the oldest teams in the NFL or the oldest and be like, "Hey guys, we're gonna run it my way." Okay, these all like Aaron Rodgers looking at him. I mean, I guess they're pairing them back together. I don't even know if Rodgers is gonna be there.
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent. I would be surprised if he came back this year, dude. I think he's
quarterback. What do you do? What do you do? Nothing.
Dr.
But,
Malik
okay.
Willis. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no
but-
idea.
But
I have no clue.
But even though McCarthy was my guy, we have Saleh. And again, you're right with the OC. The OC is super, super, super important. I did want a guy permanently there with Cam. That's why I wanted an offensive guy all the time. It's the same system. He doesn't change, which is kind of the meta right now. Everyone wants to do that. That's what people are pining after. And I mean, okay. I think we were trying to talk about this a second ago, but like when you look at what Saleh had with a number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson,
Yeah.
and what he did. Now, Zach Wilson didn't end up being Sam Darnold. Zach Wilson is a backup, bad quarterback in the NFL. He is not an NFL quarterback.
He looked like a guy who came from. I don't even think Big 12 was the BYU. I think they were still in the Pac-12. Whenever that happened, he looked like a guy who was fringe
COVID Pac-12
Power
as
4.
well.
Yeah,
So
he's
they
a
were just playing
fringe
for-
Power 5 quarterback who had one good throw at the combine, and everybody's like, "Oh, neuron activation! This guy's
and he-
insane."
I will say the jumping in the air stiff arm was pretty sick. That was pretty awesome. And I've also heard from a New York reporter, like I have insight. I've just listened to stuff.
Guys-
That Salah's original intent.
Watch out, Adam
was
Schefter.
that- Yeah, I'm coming for you, bro. Salah's intent when he first got to the Jets was to keep Sam Darnold. He wanted to keep Sam Darnold. Joe Douglas wanted Zach Wilson. And where's Joe Douglas now? Oh, he's here with me on the couch.
He's in Cancun.
Yeah.
He's in Galveston.
Dirty ass water. But it's his time with the Jets is so difficult to really pinpoint what
Yeah.
his faults were. I would say okay, there's a couple things that are pretty apparent that it was on him. He is the head coach. He needs to be the guy to make the final decision on certain things on the offense, how things operate. That just doesn't work. Like, you're the head coach. I realize that there's overstep, there's all this and that, but you are still the head coach. That is still your responsibility to get the other side of the ball, which you are the head coach of, to be ready to play and be able to play at a high level, because your defense is spectacular. It was amazing.
Yeah.
The other side of the ball is awful. And I mean, I heard there was some stuff about how it was a lot of GM and ownership wanting Aaron Rodgers, bringing him in. It wasn't really Saleh's idea. Now, when he bought in. Like, he was recruiting hard, because I mean, who wouldn't want Aaron Rodgers like 4 years ago? 4 years younger than
Exactly.
me. So again, there's a lot of things that went wrong, and it seems like if you go to any Jets fans like forum, where they are just honest about their opinions, which is just a cesspool in general, I wouldn't recommend it. They there are not many that blame Saleh for
Yeah,
what happened in New York. Now, do they love him? No, because he wasn't a good coach. New York fans are awful. If you're not
yeah,
good, they hate
it's not good. It's not great. It's they're very vocal on, if you're not very good, which it would take a Bill Belichick, Don Shula level coach to make the Jets good at this point. But it's very apparent that that franchise is just a cesspool. And I think we talked about it earlier. It's a cesspool. If you want your career to die, you go to the Jets
you. Exactly.
because of
And they
how
also,
just totally run that whole entire franchise is. It's the worst, probably the worst franchise in major American sports right now. It's so bad.
the Browns are pretty bad, but they're in a much better position than the Jets are, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And hey, I was gonna get a quick question from you. When the Dolphins would play the Jets, which by the way, guys, Ryan's a Dolphins fan. He's from Nashville. He appreciates the Titans. We went to some
I'm a
games
Dolphins
together.
fan from Nashville, and I'm in East Texas, so
Yeah, he's all over the place.
I'm everywhere.
Wanderer.
I'm him.
I was curious. I saw some critiques on his game management. Do you remember a time where you were like, "You're an idiot. Why are you doing this? Um, this is dumb. You just cost yourself a touchdown, 6 point, three, field goal." And also maybe how disciplined the team was. Were there penalties all the time? Was there a discrepancy between the defensive side of penalties and offensive side? Just I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, I'm trying to remember because this would have been in like the 21, like 2020,
21,
2021.
yeah, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and then he got fired 5 games into the 2024 season. So the last, except this past year, pretty much, is there something you can remember?
I mean, there was a pretty big discrepancy in like from the defensive side to the offensive side, but I feel like anybody who can look at stats kind of saw that. But there
Was
was
it
a
like
there was a
discipline, or was it like scheme was really good, or was I would say most of the talent there was like the biggest pool of talent was definitely on the
defensive
defensive
side,
side of the ball.
and I think that's what we'll see with Tennessee, especially in this draft this year, which I know we'll talk about later, but it's just a lot better defensively filled draft at the front end of it than what it is with offensive side outside of like two players, which I got to be honest with you. First off, the Raiders are going to take Fernando Mendoza, which you don't need a quarterback anyways because you have Cam Ward. There's zero reason in that. On top of that as well, the next best offensive player is going to be Jeremiah Love. Do you really want to spend the 4th overall pick on a running back when your offensive line isn't all that great? And this offensive line free agency class is okay. Like there's some good pieces for Tennessee with J.C. Latham and Peter Scarronci, a couple of young pieces. But like, do you really want to try and put a running back in there? I mean, it would help, but still, do you really want to risk that?
And I mean, there are some free agents in the running back room with like Brees Hall. I believe is a free agent. I believe Brees Hall's a free agent. That's a Jets connection.
Trying to think. I can't remember.
At least I heard some inklings. So I heard some sprinkles in there that he might want to come here. You know.
Yeah. But going back to what you were asking me,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm trying to think because it's been Unk status here. It's been a couple of years since he was with the Jets, or at least me remembering fully playing the Jets. I mean, the offensive side of the ball was so poorly put together, and obviously that's not all on Saleh. It obviously goes towards the front office as well, but it definitely felt like there was a big just kind of divide between the offense and the defense, especially, you got a little bit later into his tenure, and obviously you have Quinnen Williams, who's a really good player. You add on Sauce Gardner, who he's had his troubles with holding and, that side of it, but in his rookie year, rookie year and a half, he was a, good corner because didn't get called, but still, it was a good defense. Offensively, they struggled, and I think that's just more of not having very good talent on the offensive side of the ball, whether it was, in the
It
wide
wasn't for lack
receiver
of
room
trying,
or
though, either.
yeah,
Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard. I mean, every person that was wanted that loading up for their Aaron Rodgers year, they got. And
yeah,
Nathaniel Hackett couldn't put it together. Mike LaFleur didn't have those pieces. He had Garrett Wilson and Zach Wilson throwing to each other. And I mean, the offensive line, it feels that they're looking at the Jets offense, Ryan, do you know what this team felt like to me? It felt like looking at Rand Carthon, like building a team in New York. Like I was just like, Rand Carthon loved names. He loved
yeah.
big names. And it's like since he signed those big names, everyone else had to be nobodies. And it was like, okay, Rand Carthon did hit on a few picks. So it's Rand Carthon, the one thing he did decent, he drafted okay. Free agency was bad. Couldn't do free agency. Roster building was just bad in general. Hiring coaches apparently is not a strong suit. And that's
No, it
what
didn't
the
seem
Jets
that
feel
way
like.
exactly.
Like they had a bunch of talent, and they just
Yeah.
didn't put it together.
I think it was just the offensive coaching staff was just not very good. You obviously pair that with Saleh, who
Is an
whether he
offensive
was
guy, he can't step in to fix it. You know?
yeah, it's just he can step in to fix it. Maybe obviously he played his part in hiring the offensive guys, and it just didn't work out. And once again, that's the one risk with hiring a defensive guy is that I think it's easier to find a good defensive mind than it is to find a good offensive mind, but it is easier to find a defensive head coach than it is an offensive one, because you see so many people you see a lot of these offensive-minded coaches now. Obviously, you mentioned Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Andy Reid for a really long time. There's a lot of really good offensive coaches out there, but I'm trying to rack my brain around this. Like I said, it's easy. I think it's easier to find a good OC than it is to find a good DC, but it's easier to find a good DC that's a head coach because they kind of have that understanding of both sides of it.
And I think defensively, there's more of a leadership culture aspect. There's more of like a mentality that comes with defense. You got to kind of be a crazy ass dude to be on the defense.
Yeah. It's like, on the offensive side of the ball, you can go with that power approach or you can go with the finesse. On the defensive side, it's like, yeah, fuck them up. You're going in there to fuck them up. That's what you're trying to do there. You're trying to, you're trying to take a soul. You're trying to be Sean Payton with the Bounty Gate down in New Orleans. To the hit crew, the Legion of Boom. You're trying to you want to overpower them with the defensive guys, and I think that's what a lot of organizations, like you said with the Titans, they've been missing. They've been missing a dude who said go hit a dude in his fucking mouth. Go punch a guy in his mouth and see what he does. They've been missing
that's
that.
Titans football. Titans football has always been you had a hard ass running back and you've got a great defense. Like that's always been Titans football. And people talk about DNA. People talk about like all this and that. Sometimes that's just ingrained. Like sometimes your team just maybe I don't know, coincidence. It just seems to work. It seems to be what you're most successful at. It just flows. Which I think Saleh is meant to be that way. I think Saleh is that guy. And just being honest, I think his time with the Jets needs to be taken with the biggest
grain of salt.
Field of salt there is.
It's a grain. Take it with a grain of salt because, like we've been saying this the whole time, the Jets are a terribly run organization. Everybody who goes there to fail. And if you can succeed with the Jets, then you're not going to be with the Jets for very long because you'll be probably fired because people think you're useless after 1 year.
Aaron Glenn's probably already on the hot seat because he had Justin Fields as his QB.
I'd be surprised if he made it. I would be surprised if he made it half a year. Dante Moore, who was virtually the guaranteed second overall pick, went back to the 2027 draft, which is going to be a so much better draft than what this one is for offensive talent at the quarterback position especially. It's significantly better draft there. He's probably risking being a top, now like a top 15, top 20 pick instead of that number 2 overall pick because he didn't want to go play for the Jets. Exactly. That game against Indiana was his opportunity to be like, hey, I deserve to be the number 1 overall pick. Shit straight down his leg. Lights too bright, moment too big. Piss straight down the leg. sucked during the most of the game, and he's like, I'm gonna go to the Jets now. My career's gonna die. I'm leaving. That's pretty much. I'm sure that's what. I'm almost positive that's what he thought. He's gonna say, no, I just want to win a natty with Oregon. I don't want to go to the fucking Jets. Now he might get drafted by him next year, and we'll see what happens. But he's like,
Manning them.
Yeah, literally Eli Manning them. Literally, he said he. Oh my gosh, he.
I think Peyton and Eli both did it. I think Peyton went back when he was going to be the number 1 overall pick and was going to go to the Jets. And I think he went back for his senior
Did
year,
he?
so he wouldn't get drafted. Yeah, I think,
That's bad.
I
He pulled a
think
John
that's
Elway, literally. John Elway's Bo Jackson, pretty much. I don't know if you remember that. Well, like whenever Bo was coming out, I think it was the Bucks that were like, yeah, he was like he wanted to go play baseball, and the Bucks were like, no, you're not doing that. We're gonna draft you number 1 overall. He's like, I'm gonna go play baseball, and then the Bucks literally. I don't know what they did. I can't remember what they did. I remember the 30 for 30 that they ran on Bo Jackson, but they did it to where he couldn't play baseball that year. Yeah. And he's like, dude, if you guys draft me, I'm not going to sign with you. I'm going to go play baseball. And he's like, okay, we're going to draft you anyways. And then he went to go play for the Royals. So
and
it's like...
He was literally like, if you draft me, I'm not signing. And then
I'm not doing this. This is a waste of the pick. Okay.
I turned it in.
It's just awful. And that's literally what happened with Dante Moore. He's like, I'm going to go where? Bye. I'm leaving. I'm going back to Oregon. Trying, it's like, roll the dice and you see, snake eyes. And like, let me just press that button real quick before anybody saw. Not a big deal. Not a big deal here. But, yeah, it's like, going back to the original point in all of this, like you said, we could take what happened with him and the Jets. You have to take some of it into account, obviously, but it could be a learning experience for him alongside of like, hey, he was with the Jets, and kind of just use that as a little bit of a get out of jail free card.
Yeah. This is I think he's got a great opportunity for a second chance. He has a young quarterback who we're not moving from. Borgonzi, I think, is a really good general manager. I think he did amazing with free agency. This is year 1. You never know. There's going to be up years. There's going to be down years. He's with Kansas City for a long time. He knows what it's like to build a winning organization. Came in when Kansas City had the number 1 overall pick and helped build it to what it was, a dynasty. Helped draft Patrick Mahomes. He knows what it's like. He knows what it's like to take a team that was the worst in the league and make them good again.
Yeah.
So I believe in him. And Joe Douglas is not that. Joe Douglas was Rand Carthon.
I like how we're turning this into let's shit on the Jets.
Because that's what it is. I mean, the Jets are awful. I don't know why.
You talk about Robert Saleh, you have to talk about the Jets, and when you talk about the Jets, you talk about how fucking bad they are, just in everything that they do.
What do you think about the Jets helmets? I hate
these new ones. I just don't think everybody's going with these like minimalistic looks, and I don't think in football that works. No, I want to go with the bold and brass looks. I like the old Jets ones. Like,
yes.
I like the
all
old
black
Jets
jerseys ones. Look pretty nice. I will say they look pretty sweet.
Those are pretty.
But I hate the chrome. It just doesn't. It looks like an.
That's their like new jersey they had this year, right? Isn't it like the debut
one?
of like? No, not the black one. I know that was that they've had that for a while. The chrome one, because I know I think it was like the AFC East and the NFC West debuted. I forget the name of them. The name of the rivalry ones. No, it's rivalry. It is rivalry. Miami's a sick. Miami's sick. It's a sick one. I wish it was like that navy blue. My dad, he has a Ricky Williams jersey. That it's like they never wore it. It was just I don't know why they had it in the shop, like in the shop at it wasn't Hard Rock. I think it was actually the Orange Bowl.
Same thing with the Titans red jersey.
It's like I don't know why you have this, but it looks sick as hell. It's like it's a navy blue Ricky Williams jersey from the like late 2000s to the early 2010s. Like the cartoon dolphin, almost like the cartoonish looking dolphin. It's like that. It's a sick jersey, and it's kind of like I wish it would have been that, but we're not talking about that. Who does get the rivalry jerseys this year? Are they moving to the South or like to the AFC South?
Get a rivalry jersey this year.
I hope they go red.
It's been announced.
I hope they go with the red. That would be sick.
I don't know. We're getting new jerseys this year, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
You mentioned something about it.
Yeah, new jerseys. Supposed to get rivalry jerseys.
That'll be
Uh,
sick.
it's gonna be awesome. I think they're going more towards the Oilers look. We're never gonna have like the dark blue as the main
Hmm.
anymore. My prediction is that it'll still be two tone. We're not gonna really incorporate as much red. I could be just completely wrong. I might just be we may just adopt the Oilers colors again, and
Mm.
Titans logo, some other logo that's new. Um,
I don't think the Titans. I don't think that Titans logo works with the Oilers. I think the baby blue on it it contrasts a little too much, but that's just
and I
me.
think if you go too modern, too flashy, you look like an XFL team. So I feel like you got to stick. And I think number one, I think the Titans logo looks sick. I love the flame. People hate it.
You
I'm
can
like,
see
this
it
looks
run up
so good.
to the side of it right here. You can
Yeah,
kind of
right
see the
there
logo.
or
But
there.
other side. It's the other side. It's on your left.
Oh, there.
Either way. Either way.
But sorry, but
No, you can't see it. I can.
yeah, I can't see it. My fault, gang. But yeah, new Titans jerseys. They're probably going to be revealed somewhat in the next 2 months. I'm
Want to have
excited
our
about
reaction to those. That'll be
yeah,
cool.
dude, live reaction. That'd be so
Live
sick.
reaction to the jerseys. But let's get back on track with the Saleh talk.
yeah.
And I think we can kind of like obviously we know about the Jets, know what he did this year with the 49ers and just being able to kind of bring them back. And I think we can also take with what happened with Seattle with a grain of salt as well, because that was a beat up defense, and on top of that, Seattle's just a really good offense, man. Like I don't really know what to tell you. That whole offense alongside the emergence of JSN, it's just a really good team. It's just a really good overall team with Seattle. So, but moving on from all of that, getting towards the actual hiring of Saleh, what do you think, like good things, bad things? I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit here at this point, but just to go a little bit further into depth, because we have hit the hour mark here recording wise, but just to go that a little bit more into depth on that hire, what you like, what you don't like, and what he needs to do to be able to succeed in Tennessee, and be that like you said, have that Mike Vrabel effect for the Titans here for the future.
I think, in my opinion, I have three positives. You have a culture. You have leadership, which has been greatly lacking for the last 2 years since Vrabel left. There's a gigantic void that has been left, and it needed to be filled badly. We lost our way. And I think, as weird as this is to say, because it's true, look at the playoffs. If you have an elite defense, you will be a good team. You will win games. You will get there. Our defense, it might as well have one side of the ball be good. Might as well have one,
Better than none.
If you can't get both, it's better than having zero sides of the ball be good. That's my other positive. And I think he's just going to come in here and establish a standard, and that is it. That's all the positives that you can say for now. You give him a second shot. You have culture, you have leadership, and you have a defense. I guess that's 4 things, 3 things. Doesn't matter. Saleh by 17.
Exactly. Yeah, with him, I kind of talked about it already. Obviously, the OC pick is going to be very important, but you kind of hit the nail on the head with the, let's have at least one side of the ball that's going to be, a crutch to lean on. And I think that's kind of the deal when you're saying, hey, let's have an offensive or defensive-minded head coach. Is like, this is going to be the side that we crunch on. And I think you see it a lot more now at both the college level and the NFL. You look at how many good coaches I talked about it for a little bit. How many good defensive-minded coaches there are at the college level, whether it's Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart, obviously Nick Saban is the greatest college coach of all time. Brent Venables, a lot of really good defensive-minded coaches. I think Mario Cristobal is also in that tree as well. A lot of really good defensive-minded coaches. Then you go to the NFL. Look at the 2 coaches that are leading the way in the Super Bowl. Mike McDonald, defensive guy, right? Defensive guy, and then Mike Vrabel, who's played on the defensive side of the ball and is a defensive guy. So I think it's just having that crutch of having a good defense, and it's kind of like I said before, to get to the dance more times than not. If you want to get to the dance, gotta have a good defense. So what you saw with a lot of the AFC teams, NFC was honestly, it felt like a two-horse race. It kind of felt like it was an inevitable crash course between the Seahawks and Rams for the third time this season, because a lot of what you saw from the NFC was like obviously the Panthers and that dumpster fire of a division in the NFC South, and then the NFC North, which was a really good division between the Packers and the Vikings, who turned it on late, Lions, who had an off year, and then obviously the Bears, who under Ben Johnson, which offensive minded coach obviously, but still really good coach there, who helped make the Lions run whenever they were making their 2 runs to the playoffs over the past couple of years. And then you look towards the West, Cardinals are bad, obviously, with Shanahan in the 49ers. You have Saleh, so you have a good guy on the defensive side of the ball who can call plays on the defensive side of the ball. And then obviously the 2 teams I just mentioned in the Rams and Seahawks, who are just like I just said, we're on a crash course to face each other again. And then out east, Cowboys, who missed the playoffs, offensive-minded guy. The Eagles were Nick Sirianni's. I don't even know what's happening out there in Philly. It's not great. Obviously, with A.J. Brown wanting to leave. Heard the Titans need a guy, by the way. I can put together a really cool Photoshop in like 3 seconds if you give me a second here. I could put something really cool together. That. And then
pretty clean, huh?
With the Commanders were interesting because obviously Jaden Daniels getting hurt was a big part of it, and that's kind of who I compare to. I don't want to say it's like can the Titans be the Commanders back in 2024 whenever they made their run to the NFC Championship, because it's somewhat similar of situations minus second-year starting quarterback who was a top 2 pick instead of first-year quarterback who was a top 2 pick. Obviously, I feel like we kind of know what Cliff Kingsbury is as a play caller. Say what you want about the head coach. He's a really good offensive mind. He's one of those air raid college guys, and it showed very much whenever Jaden Daniels was fully healthy with in his rookie season. Obviously, wasn't that this year, but it showed, and that's kind of the benchmark. Maybe not necessarily here in year 1 with Saleh, but you get to year 2, and the Commanders can be your benchmark for the Titans with this hire. Obviously, if you hired somebody else, it would have been different, but that's kind of the benchmark that you want to look towards. Can we be what the Commanders were in 2024? Not this next year, because I still think you need more talent, and if they are, you're overachieving, just like they were. But can you be what the Commanders were in 2024 in 27 or 28? And I think,
how does Cam look at that moment?
Exactly.
We have to keep this in account as well. Robert Saleh's first year as a head coach for the New York Jets, which we are praising him for being able to instantly turn around things, which is true. A year typically is how long it takes for your whole system to get integrated, your players to get there. His first year as a head coach for the Jets, he was ranked 32nd in almost every defensive metric.
Yeah.
It just takes a minute, because you know what happened year 2? Number 3, number 4, across the board, just a genuine turnaround. We need to temper our expectations. I feel like specifically with modern NFL, people getting in people's heads. Saleh, now of course, again, it all depends on OC, which we're going to hopefully come out with a reaction episode, giving a little...
in the near future? Who's going to be hired here?
Hopefully very soon, because I'd love to know. Hopefully Cliff Kingsbury, maybe Brian Daboll. We'll get into that a little bit more. It takes a second to implement it. Things take time, and I feel like we're starting to come back to that. People are smart. People know that sometimes it is best to go back to the way things used to be done. It's not instant gratification. Saleh seems to be a guy who can make it happen. You just have to give him time to do it. Give him the opportunities. Quit forcing decisions on him unless you know it's the best thing to do. And just let him roll. Let him just control that defense. Give him players. Let him have his input. and let him lead that team like Vrabel did. Let him
Yeah.
be Vrabel. Let him be Vrabel, and we should be an average. I just want to see more than 3 wins a year. You know, like is that too much to freaking ask? Is that too much to freaking
Yeah.
ask for?
Hey, maybe we'll see. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you. We'll see how they do this year. Obviously, gotta wait until season starts, and you gotta get your assistants, your coordinators, your assistants, and all that leveled in. They got free agency in the draft, which I'm very intrigued to see how they'll attack that. I think with Saleh, they'll probably look more towards the defensive side, but because listen, there's like we said, there's some good defensive talent there's some good talent on the defensive side of the ball, and this is a really good front end defensive draft with guys like Ruben Bain and Caleb Downs, Jermon McCoy, the kid from LSU, the corner from LSU that I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Keldrick Falk. And I'm sure I'm missing some people in there, but there's still some really good defensive talent in the top end of this draft where it's like you can't really go wrong if you want to address the defensive line. Bam, Ruben Bain. He's probably going to be there at 4. Caleb Downs in the secondary. Bang, he's probably going to be there. Jermon McCoy, the kid from LSU. They're going to be there at 4. There's a lot of opportunity, and it's really going to depend on where he wants to go. There's also the kid from Ohio, the other kid from Ohio State. I think there's 2 other dudes from Ohio State that are projected to get drafted.
Arvell Reese is his name.
Yeah, he's the linebacker, right?
Yeah, he's gonna play edge at the NFL probably. He's got the size for it. He may be a little undersized, but he's got the pop for it.
And there's
They're
one more
projecting him
kid.
too.
There's one more kid that I'm thinking of from Ohio. It's like I think he's like a true linebacker. I think he's supposed to be like a true Mike linebacker. It's like Sonny something. I think is his name.
I don't know. I'm not super into the draft stuff yet. Going to though.
I'll look into it here later, but we'll see. It's going to be a waiting game. Obviously, the season technically isn't even over yet. Free agency won't start until I believe it's the 9th. March 9th is when free agency starts. By then, we'll know a lot of answers on what the kind of the plan is for Tennessee and what the kind of expectation is on where they'll attack free agency and the draft. But before we go, honors are this weekend. Obviously, it feels like a lot of these awards are kind of set in stone. You can pencil them in, maybe not pen yet, on everything except for MVP between Drake May and Matthew Stafford. Ethan, what are the thoughts here, man?
I feel like Matt Stafford is more deserving of the MVP honor. He played a more difficult schedule. Now,
yeah, by a
let's
long
be
shot.
real. Receivers, he's got a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Puka Nacua,
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt they've had a really good offensive talent.
But I feel like every year it feels like he wills them there. It feels like it's him that brings them there. And I feel like this is that, like, you could go ahead and go like, well, the advanced metrics say that Drake May was better in the Vartan land. It's like, who cares? Drake May played cupcakes all year. He played the Titans. He put up,
he played 3. I looked into this. He played 3 games during the regular season where they played a team that was over 500, and one of them was against the Steelers early in the year, which that's just a dumpster fire. They're the most overrated over 500 team every single year, and it's just been that way. It's been over 10 years since they won a playoff game, and I think they've had like 7 or 8 playoff appearances. Like, they've had so many opportunities and just don't get any. They just can't win once they get there because it's like we were just saying, defense can get you there, offense is actually going to get it done for you.
Yep.
And then they played the Bills twice, obviously, because it's a divisional opponent, and split the series with them. So, like,
their only good win was against the Bills. And yeah. I remember watching that game, and they looked good. And anything can happen with, like, these rivalry games. I mean, it's just how it is. Like, it's always going to split. Like, that's just how it's going to be when you play it. The hardest thing to do in sports is beat the same team twice.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good they are. They're all NFL players. They're all making millions,
Yeah.
That's why I think Matt Stafford is deserving. But to say that I am 100% sure that's going to happen would just be an outright lie. Drake May is more than likely going to get it.
Yeah,
Just
that's what I was gonna say. I think if you had to put money on it, if I was sitting here looking at FanDuel, looking at whatever, not sponsored, putting money on it, I would probably go Drake May because I know the stats I believe lead in for Matt Stafford, and it's not all that close, but to kind of see what the Patriots did, and I've noticed this with a lot of the times, guys who win MVP, it's not solely based off of what statistically what they do, but it's also what this team looks like, what their overall team looks like. You compare a team that didn't win their division to a team that was the 2 seed, won their division, and obviously it's a regular season award, so it's hard to look at and sit here and say, oh, look at what they're doing in the playoffs. He's going to the Super Bowl, but they are going to the Super Bowl, and he was a big part of. He was a big part of their regular season success. Not so much the playoff, but regular season success. Drake May was a big part of that. Say what you want about the schedule, but he was still a big part of it. And
no one's saying that he's not.
No, not at all.
But there's circumstance that changes how good those stats look in our opinion, as me and Ryan both agree on this.
No, I 100%. Yeah, we 100% agree on that. And I'm not saying I think Matt Stafford should probably get it, but it's probably going to be Drake May just because of the accolades from the team. I think we saw it in back-to-back years where Josh Allen in 2023 was the best statistical quarterback, probably should have won MVP, and then it ends up going to Lamar because of what the Ravens were able to do in the regular season and getting, I think they won the NFC or the AFC, won the AFC South or the AFC North, and was the number 1 seed. And then you go to it's the exact opposite. It's like Lamar Jackson had the better statistical season, but Josh Allen led the Bills to another AFC championship. They look like the best team, or the AFC, not AFC championship, but AFC East title. And
I feel like there was nothing that Josh Allen did that should have won him that award. Other than they felt bad for him.
You've seen it so often where it's like, this guy maybe doesn't deserve to win it compared to another dude, but with what the team did, you saw the team succeeded. He's the quarterback on one of the best teams in the NFL compared to this guy who was statistically the better quarterback, but their team didn't do as well. So how valuable were you to that team? I don't know what the voters' mindset is or what their process is, but you see it kind of in both college football and the NFL. And I think that's what you're going to see here as well. Matt Stafford's more deserving probably, but Drake May's going to end up winning it just because he, with what the Patriots did during the season, and especially you consider the turnaround they had as well, going from 3-14 to 14-3, and winning the division in the 2 seed, and was just outside of that number 1 spot with Denver.
Yep. And I mean, it sucks because the Patriots don't deserve happiness, but it's going to happen.
They're the
Ryan,
luckiest franchise.
I've got one more question for you.
All right.
If you were to give the Robert Saleh hire a grade, just a letter grade, I want you to think of it in your head, ponder on it in a second. I've got mine ready to go. When you're ready, you state yours first, and we'll see if we match.
Okay. Let me think about this for a second, because I think it's a B. I would say it's a B, like a B, B minus, somewhere in that range, just because it's a good hire. I do like it because of what I said with, obviously he's a former head coach, not a successful one, but a former head coach, and you're seeing this more often, like Miami obviously hiring the Packers defensive coordinator. You're seeing it a little more often where these guys are going towards the defensive side of the ball because they want to instill a culture, and you don't feel like you could do that with an offensive guy. And I think that's what the Titans are trying to do. It's like you said it perfectly. that's what's been missing. That was what was missing with Brian Callahan, and that's why the Titans were able to do what they were able to do with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel, and be able to be this really good football team. Being able to make the playoffs semi-consistently and win the AFC South fairly consistently. The only thing I don't like is, while you say take a grain of salt with what happened in New York, you can't just ignore it. Like, it happened.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, you can't just sit here and blame the front office for every single mistake that, happens, or the failures that happen. It's a joined effort. It's why more times than not you see whenever teams go through a full rebuild, they strip the whole thing down, front office and coaching staff. Now, obviously, this year it's been a little bit different because, whatever. But that's why you see that happen. More teams want to strip down their whole entire roster when they go through full rebuilds, like what you're seeing Miami and Atlanta do, with both of them firing head coaches and GMs. But I like the hire, but you can't ignore the history of Saleh being that, the Jets disaster that it was, which, like we've been saying, it's, not uncommon for the Jets at this point. But I think what you want to see is, did he learn from that? Did he learn from his time in New York to where he can be able to use those mistakes, use them as, pillars to be able to set himself up for success and, turn this team back into a winner like it was in the late 2010s? And we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We agreed. I had a B minus. And again, I agree with everything you're saying. Be the leader you're supposed to be.
That means a lot. That means a lot in my heart.
Dude, I know. It's just, you're welcome.
Thank you.
But be the leader you're supposed to be. Make this defense amazing again. Let's bring back some of those Jeff Fisher days, early 2000s. And find your guys and stick with your guys.
Yeah.
And everything else should follow suit. But I think on Robert Saleh, this is his best chance and this is his last chance. And I think he knows that. You don't get a third most of the time. You don't get a third.
Yep.
So wish him the best. I'm hoping for the best. And I think we're going to have a pretty good year. I think we're going to win probably 6 games this first year. Okay, draft. Just right now, 6 games I think is about all we can ask for.
Yeah, we'll have more clarity once they go ahead and get OC and DC and some of these assistants going, and obviously more and more clarity as the offseason goes on with the draft and free agency. But yeah, for right now, that's not a terrible spot to be looking at. Just add a couple more wins onto show that you're progressing, even if it is just year one. Show that you've got some of that progression, be closer in games, have that crutch of being able to rely on the defense, because, that's the one thing I've noticed. If you have a good defense, you're never truly out of a game, because your defense is going to be able to keep you in it for as long as you can. It's just a matter of the offense being able to, go in and take advantage of your defense playing well. But I think we agree with that. B- for Saleh. And we'll know more as the offseason goes along. But that is it. We're about to hit getting close to the hour 30 mark. That's all we got here for episode 1 of the Two-Tone Report with Ryan Smith and Ethan Jacobs. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back very soon. Hopefully with some coordinators to talk about. Y'all have a good one.
That'd be awesome.